You ever get that feeling that your data is trying to tell you something, but you just can't quite figure out what? Well, today we're going to unlock a super simple but really powerful tool that'll help you do exactly that. Let's jump right in. So think about a question like this for a second. Are people in the city driving different car brands than people out in the country? I mean, you could guess, right? Or ask a few people you know, but how do you really know for sure? Turns out there's a simple stats tool that gives us a crystal clear answer.
And that tool is the contingency table. You'll also hear it called by its much cooler nickname, the crosstab. This thing is a total cornerstone of descriptive stats, and you're about to see just how easy and how powerful it really is. So, what is it, really? Think of it like a simple grid. It's designed to compare two categorical variables. And what are those? Just things that fit into neat little boxes or groups, like city versus country or male versus female. All the table does is show us how many times each combination of those groups pops up.
Okay, so let's actually build one. It's the best way to learn. First, we've got to understand the basic parts. But don't worry, it's super straightforward. It's really just a simple grid.
The whole setup is just so simple. You've got your rows going across for one variable, say gender. Then you've got columns going down for your other variable, like do they have an umbrella? And the magic, it happens right there in the little boxes, the cells where they cross over. That's where we put the numbers, the counts.
Now, those numbers that we put in the cells, well, they can actually tell two different kinds of stories. We've got a couple of ways we can present them. So you've got two main choices. First, there's absolute frequencies. That's just the raw number, the simple count. It answers the question, how many? Then you've got relative frequencies. This shows that same number, but as a percentage of the total. It answers what proportion. And honestly, both are super useful for seeing the full picture.
All right, enough with the theory, right? Let's make this real. We're going to walk through a super simple story to see exactly how one of these crosstabs gets built step by step. Okay, so picture this. It's a rainy day, you're in a statistics lecture, maybe a little bored. And one student decides, hey, I'm going to do a quick experiment. They're going to look around the room and track just two things, a person's gender and whether or not they have an umbrella with them.
And here's our starting point, our empty grid. See? We've got gender making up the rows, and with umbrella status making up the columns. So let's start filling this thing in as our student starts counting.
Okay, first observation. The student looks around and counts 5 females who have an umbrella. So boom, a 5 goes right in that first box. Easy, right?
All right, next up, they spot 7 females who did not bring an umbrella. So we put a 7 in the box right next to the first one.
Okay, now we're moving on to the guys. Turns out 5 of them were prepared for the rain and brought an umbrella. So let's pop that number into our table. And to finish it off, there are 5 males who didn't bring an umbrella. Now, check this out. We can add up the rows and the columns to get totals. And just like that, we get the whole picture. We can see instantly there were 12 females, 10 males, 22 students in total. See? The story is coming together right before our eyes. So a classroom example is great for learning, but where does this thing actually get used? Well, it's a huge deal in the real world, especially in stuff like market research. Let's see how it's used to make some pretty big decisions. I mean, businesses are using crosstabs all the time to answer really important questions. They're looking for connections between different customer groups and what they like to buy. And getting the answers to these questions right, that can be worth millions. It's the exact same simple table we just built, but used to solve some really high-stakes problems. Okay, but this is really important. We have to understand what this tool is amazing at and also what it can't do. It has its limits, and it's key to know the difference. So here's the main takeaway. A crosstab's superpower is describing things. It tells you the story, but only about the specific group you looked at, what we call your sample. For our example, it's just telling us the story of those 22 students in that one room on that one day. And that brings up the million-dollar question, doesn't it? The pattern we saw in that classroom, does that mean it's true for all students everywhere? Can we take what we learned from our tiny group and say it applies to everyone? And the answer is no. The contingency table all by itself can't tell us that. Remember, it only describes our little group. If we want to make that big leap to say something about the whole population, we need a different tool, something like a chi-square test. So think of it like this. The crosstab shows you a possible pattern in your data, and the chi-square test is what you use to see if that pattern is probably real for everybody, not just a fluke in your small group. All right, let's wrap this up with a quick recap. What did we learn? 1. Crosstabs are amazing for organizing two categorical variables. 2. They let you spot potential relationships instantly. 3. You can show the data as either raw numbers or percentages. And 4, and this is the big one, their main job is to describe the sample you have in front of you.
So there you have it. You now know how to build and read a contingency table. So the only question left is, what hidden stories are just sitting there waiting to be discovered in your data?